Hello, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Welcome back. This is VCTV by LATOKEN, a show where you will see VCs and prominent businesses come on board, talk about ideas, and at times pitch their ideas. So, this is a good platform. And today we are having a discussion on artificial intelligence, facial recognition, and identity management. We want to see where the money is going, what are the investors thinking, and the developments in the area itself. So today with me on the panel, we have no other than Gary and Telly. Now, both of them are, again, prominent VCs in their area. So I'll just let them have a quick introduction then. Gary, why don't you start with that quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Terrence. So, hello, everybody. It's great to be here. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, investor, and a lover of artificial intelligence, neural nets, etc. I've done 16 companies, and two of those companies have been unicorns. One of them, I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion about 16 months ago, and also Eva, YVA.ai, which is one of the top AI HR tech companies on the planet. So today I am the CEO and co-founder of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. And we help companies go global. So great to be here, Terrence. Great to see Telly and the rest of the LA Token team. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Brilliant. Telly, moving on to you. Tell us a bit about yourself and who you represent.
Hi, my name is Telly, and I am co-founder for Beyond Capital Markets, which is a digital asset management firm, and also a digital financial market infrastructure company. I'm also a co-founder for Pro House Labs, which is a fintech incubator. And within the fintech incubator, we have a number of portfolio companies, one of which is Old School, which is the first tech school for digital finance and alternative finance for professionals. And under that, we are working with different partners, one specifically in Singapore that is using AI for recruitment. Uh, so it's kind of interesting. And yeah, that's it.
Nice, nice. Okay, we're definitely gonna round back to that AI for recruitment bit. I'm sure lots of us want to listen to that. But kind of touching on the topic itself, I think when it comes to AI, facial recognition, identity management, it's kind of all within the same ecosystem as well. And just me being a nerd, I kind of read up earlier before the show as well. And I found out like it was out. I mean, the term AI was kind of coined in the 1956. And then for that time, it was all about neural network. And then from the 80s onwards, you keep hearing machine learning. That became popular. And then now it's deep learning. So I think that those are the few things that we want to cover now to kind of get your views on it. Because from what I understand, as in we see those chess playing computers to self-driving cars, but what are you seeing at the moment? Gary, perhaps we can start with you on this.
Well, I mean, I just wrote an article in Forbes a couple weeks ago on deep learning versus machine learning. Actually, it was my number one article so far in Forbes in terms of readers. So, I mean, to be honest with you, Terrence, there's a lot of BS out there. I mean,
Mm,
people talk about artificial intelligence, they have zero clue what it is. I mean, 99% of the time. So, first of all, they don't understand it. You know, they think algorithmic math is really artificial intelligence. But in reality, you know, where the world is going today is quite different than when I was working in Ops 5 and Lisp, which were the original parts of AI defined as a back in the 80s, actually, late 80s. So, you know, I've been around the block on this stuff a long time. I've got over 30 years worth of experience in the environment. So let's just draw a picture. Let's talk about where we are today and why this makes a lot of sense. And I'll put my psychologist hat on. I'm a psychologist too. So let's do some comparisons. Think about what we're trying to achieve. and where we are today. This beautiful picture. So when we start out, it's all based on rules, isn't it? Right? These are the
Yep.
rules. And so we have systems based on rules. But where we're gone is to be able to get to the point, part of it is having enough training data to get to the point of semi-supervised and then unsupervised AI. And what does that mean? The ability to make decisions without human intervention.
Mm.
So if there's a car coming at you and you're in a Tesla self-driving car, to be able to understand what that truck is, how fast you should be stopping, what should you be able to do without really having to have that kind of intervention. That is unsupervised AI. The challenge we have, and some of it's based on Moore's law, every 18 months, technology, the price stays the same and the power doubles. Well, look at
Mm.
where we are today. We've finally gotten the compute power. I mean, if you look at it, your iPhone is more powerful than the computer on the spaceships NASA that went to the moon. So, I mean, technology's radically shifted. So where we are is we're finally at the point where the artificial intelligence, the capability of the AI, the neural nets, the machine learning, the deep learning have finally caught up. Now that presents itself with a whole new set of issues. And I wrote another article in Forbes magazine and on Medium about the need for compassion, because we built these systems, right? It's like a child. If you don't teach a child compassion and to be kind, what happens to that child as they grow up?
Mm.
Nothing good. So we talk about Skynet, we talk about all these other scenarios from the Terminator, but I mean, really, we think about it. Everything is being connected together. Everything.
Yeah.
Inside a manufacturing facility, the idea is for one system computer to communicate with the other one without any human intervention. Well, now those computers then talk to the outside computers, right? And the system, the AI. So everything's connected together. So this is why, I remember two separate times that I had a lunch and I had a dinner with the Vinton Cerf, who's a co-founder of the internet. And he and I had, he's at Google now. He's the chief evangelist. And we had some deep conversations about it. It was DARPANet, right, for the
Mm.
military, and it really expanded. But I mean, that's where the world's gone. Think about it. A
Mm.
couple weeks ago on my show, I had the top person at Intel on the Internet of Things. Everything is going to be connected together. So imagine smart cities, right? One smart city talks to another one. It's like,
Yeah.
so be careful what you ask for. So where we are today in terms of AI is we're moving towards unsupervised AI. And think about the challenge we have in our lives. I mean, all the massive amounts of data. I just did analysis last week. I had been saying 33 zettabytes of data. That number has increased to 40 zettabytes of data today. So to put it in comparison, if you have that much data, that's enough to go back and forth to the moon. If you had discs, right, stacked up on top
Mm.
of CDs or DVDs, stacked one on top of another, that would take you about 29 times to the back and forth to the moon. 29 times. And it's grown at 62% per year. So the massive amount of data that we have around us needs to have some type of assistance. Look at your own personal world, your own world, Terrence. You have an average of 300,000 items. Each tele has 300,000 items on average. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. That
Yep.
amount of data in your own personal world doubles every year. In 5 years, you will have 10 million items. Now, how many times, just think about yourself, you're an educated, smart guy, smart lady, Telly, right? Uh, so imagine how many times every week you say, I know that file exists, but I can't find it. Why? I've either forgotten the keywords or location, right? We're laughing, but think about it. Toffler had in the future shock called a term called infobesity. We are inundated. And I've talked to captains, of large corporations, CEOs, Ivy League educated around the world, and they all have the same problem. We have Telegram, WhatsApp, Facebook, Google Drive, Dropbox, Box. Terrence, how many email addresses do you have? How many Hotmail? How many?
That's the thing. I think it's probably five or more, even.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then it's probably more. See, when you talk
Yeah.
about Hotmail and Yahoo and a regional email address, it's probably eight.
Yeah.
Think about it. So you've got that much data. How many times do you check? You don't even know which ones you have to think about it, right? Or you don't check the Hotmail account or AOL account.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we got data coming in. The average person has 23 separate data sources. Now, how in the world are you able in your own personal world to be able to make sense of it? That's where the AI, that's where these assistants, these not smart but intelligent assistants can help us make sense of the rest of the world because we are inundated. There will be two classes of society, the ones that know and the ones that don't know. And we have to figure out how to make it more equal so that everybody can share in the opportunity. I wrote another article called Nikola Tesla's Dream Comes True, the democratization of opportunity worldwide, because that's what it's all about. We gotta be able to help each other. And we have to think about the challenges we're facing on the planet, right? We talk about, I had a conversation with one of the top NASA astronauts. He's in Austria right now. But one of the conversations that we had is that, I mean, think about all the challenges we're going to have on the earth. By 2100, there'll be 13 billion people,
Mhm.
right? Estimated 13 billion. There's 8 billion today. How in the world, the amount of potable water is going down. How in the world are we going to be able to sustain ourselves here? We got to keep our planet clean and that kind of thing. But we got to look to the stars, right? That's
Right.
why you got Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Bezos, you know, China looking at the stars. So we've got, and the only way to do it is to be able to have these incredible tools to help us make sense of it.
Right. Right. I think that's a good opener, Gary. Thank you for that. And I would agree. The whole space tourism thing, it starts that way, and then we're looking at other planets. So,
Yeah.
Telly, on your end, what do you
That's
think about it? Do you
good.
think it's just lots of buzzwords, or it's a real development going on at the moment?
Just to add to what Gary said, maybe from a different perspective, it's really the maturity. When you're looking at deep learning, it's just the maturity of AI. As he said, it's having all these learning structures being connected. So I would look at it from an infrastructure perspective, right? In that it's the coming together of all these different data sets that are learned structures already that integrate to one another and make intelligent decisions. The example he gives of smart cities is it's excellent. Or even if you're looking at utilities and what's going in the electricity, you know, application for electricity provision, it's where you can see that you do need some of these deep learning applications, neural networks, artificial neural networks that can make decision making by itself. So, for example, if you are running your smart city or a manager in the urban setting, you want to be able to deploy technology in such a way that it spots and identifies issues on time. If you're the utility provider, it's really hard for you to manage manually all these different machines. So if you have the computer or AI, if you're using deep learning, then it's going to spot challenges in your generators on time so that it can give you an indicator of when to fix it, right?
Mm.
And it pretty much works by itself. So you're right. It's in some applications it's fantastic. In others, it could be darn scary if you have the machine doing everything by itself. It doesn't need the human anyway. Well, it needs the human obviously to pump in the data set.
Right.
Whereas where we are, well, most of the world is right now is still in the area of the application of machine learning from the data sets, from the algorithmic data sets to give us our normal information decision making. So what Gary is saying, if you have all the data points, say from all your emails, and you can just pinpoint one of it, then it could actually provide you that sort of data.
Mm,
Unlike with deep learning, it's actual learned structures that are literally coming together to be independent. So yeah, I agree with him for the most part. In every field, you find just a lot of junk, and you don't really know what it is, and people just talking off their head and sound bites.
right.
Um, but like he said, it comes back to training, training those data sets and programming those data sets. So again, who's involved from me, my perspective is who is involved in the programming, because that is where bias could be put in. For example, I'm female, I'm a woman, I'm Black. If we don't have women participating in training these data sets, it's not going to learn anything about gender, nor is it going to learn anything about the different nuances between gender, nor is it going to learn anything about my race, right? So this is where AI needs to be inclusive, and the only way it could be inclusive is to have a pipeline of people who are actually being directed in it. So for me, coming right back to, kindergarten going up,
Mm,
K-12, how are we incorporating a curricula around AI, around, creating algorithms so that we can steer. So back in the day, you had your normal physics, chemistry, biology for science, but now we need to incorporate data science in such a way that we can have that pipeline of
mm.
people, or else it's not going to be inclusive.
Right,
No,
right. You're right.
you
You're right
have
on that one, Telly.
bias,
Yeah. It can be used like from predictive maintenance to almost the worst scenarios, like taking over the world. At least that's from what we see.
Yeah.
But again, as powerful as it seems, lots of it are really revolving around the machines that we have, around the capabilities that we have as well. Gary, perhaps you can take this one. Do other parts of the world stand that or gain from that unfair advantage, or what do you think is going on there? Do we are we seeing enough, or are we going to see leaps and bounds in, like, say, 5 years from now?
You mean who's benefiting from what? What do you mean, Terrence, in terms of benefiting from the technology or?
Those who are actually implementing the technology and having the computing power itself. I think when we talk about facial recognition, when we talk about the basic artificial intelligence, sometimes you need the technology, you need the hardware itself for you to even start. How about the rest of the world? I mean,
Well, I
not
mean, the
everyone's with that
situation is
iPhone. Hmm.
so the good news is that technology is becoming more evenly spread. And if you, I just sent you out of my article in deep learning versus machine learning from Forbes.
Hmm.
So if we look at it, I mean, if they're using Google or if they're using Yahoo or if they're using a Yandex, I mean, they're already using AI. And when you log into Facebook, uh, they, what did I hear? I said, they know when about approximately when you're going to die. They know that much about you from what I've heard. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that, just think about it. How many times do people on their phones get in and do TikTok, right?
True.
And do Instagram and do Facebook and do Google searches and do Amazon. I mean, that, and then you log, because people are lazy. I don't know if you're like me, Terrence, but I do it too. It's really bad, but it says one log on, use your Facebook account. At least I don't have to worry about it. I do it. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? They start sharing.
Yeah.
And so we've got this, people complain about the privacy and security, but we're
Hmm.
all doing it. If you do care about it, you don't go on Facebook, but we do,
True.
right? You don't go on TikTok, but we do. So, so we're on one side, we love the service. On the other side, we complain about the privacy and security. So, where we are today in terms of the world, the good news is it's more evenly spread than it's ever been before. And the reason is because we do have these phones, right? We have, you can't
Right.
even see it there, but we've got the phones, the
Hmm.
iPhones. the Samsung Galaxies of the
Mm.
world to be able to help us. Yes, it's getting better than it was before. Can we do better? Yes, 100%. The thing is, we need to educate people because most of the folks have zero clue about, like, machine learning and deep learning and AI. I mean, it literally talk to have a conversation says, tell me about artificial, what is AI? And when you ask people about it, you get the kookiest answers you can imagine. And so, and these are very sophisticated folks from around the planet. So we have to educate. The other thing is we have to train. Part of this whole, we're going to need a lot of people that can do machine learning, right? Can build neural nets, that understand, unsupervised AI. There's a great opportunity for every country in the world to be able to train resources to be able to come into this new age. This new age, this is like the beginning of the 20th century. And the electricity has just been widely spread because of Tesla and Westinghouse. Think about how the world changed the next 30 years. This industrial revolution took place on a massive scale. The quality of our lives changed because now in a farmhouse, you could have electricity and stay up later at night. You could have a refrigerator and washing machine, sewing machine, all kinds of things that you couldn't have before. It changed us, radically shifted our lives. Looking at medicine, right? Radically shifted. We're now in that next revolution now coming, this AI revolution. The thing is, we need to understand it and adapt to it to be able to harness I just did this presentation for top pharmaceutical companies in Europe, top. And I was one of the 8 experts, AI persons on this expert panel. And we were talking about drug discovery during the COVID crisis and artificial intelligence to not do benches yet, right? So you have a bench as a researcher and you actually test it. Well, imagine if you have enough training data that use an artificial intelligence to run the models, it like incredibly faster. I mean, it takes it from years to days, right? And so those are the kind of things we got to look at. And Terrence, having a deep background myself, I can tell you that this thing with COVID-19, SARS, right, is not the worst thing we could have come out. I know it sucks, but there's a lot nastier stuff. Like imagine a strain of Ebola that was viral like this, that would spread like this. Nothing good would happen. This is not the worst thing. So we need to be able to prepare. These are, there are cataclysmic events that take place, like the summer of 1816, a volcano in Mount Tambora, Indonesia, spread ash around that created a winter in summer of 1816. And what happened is people died, right? And so our asteroids and meteorites and things, there's other things that could happen. We need to be able to adapt and understand that we need some help with this kind of technology to be able to help us, number one, get the right kind of, whether it's lasers or understanding of the weather in place so that we can make some decisions quickly. The good news is happening. I'm encouraged by it. I just read the European Space Agency for their mission to Mars is actually employing, AI to be able to keep the astronauts companions. I mean, it sounds like the 2001: A Space Odyssey. I saw that a long, long time ago. And it's like, hi, I'm Hal,
Yeah.
And I actually, my
How we
partner,
look back at those shows now.
it's really funny because yesterday, my partner, who's a billionaire, his name is David Yang. He's one of the foremost AI experts in the world. And he's my partner on 2 companies. And he was telling me in his house, he has artificial intelligence and it writes me letters. His house has a soul and it has its own dog too, a robotic dog, like $100,000 dog. It has its own dog. So it interacts with his dog. And yesterday it was talking about life and it was sending me stuff on Telegram, trying to engage me in a philosophical discussion about life. What is life? Seriously. I
Nice.
mean, this is
We're
really,
going deep. Literally
Going
deep
deep,
learning
and this
here.
thing controls his house. So if it
Yeah.
doesn't like you, you come up to the door, and it's a motion AI, right? And for
Yeah.
whatever reason, it says, maybe you're not the right person. It doesn't let you in.
Yeah.
It
True.
doesn't let you in. It says, hey, listen, or it's mad at you because you didn't pay enough attention. It shuns you.
I
and
agree.
it can lock the doors. That's the bad thing, right?
Yeah, it can even start writing novels for us. That's all from what I read and what I hear. So,
Well, I mean,
yes.
I have music in the style of Frank Sinatra. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've just seen it recently, but it's music in the style of Frank Sinatra. It's a contrived AI uh, song in the style of Frank Sinatra for Christmas.
Wow, there you go. But Frank Sinatra already has his hits, so let's stick to that.
Yeah, well, you're not going to be able to tell soon who does what because you
Yeah,
can make a style of anybody at any time. And
true,
you're right.
true,
We're not
true.
going to need to have journalists because I've already seen this stuff. Abby, my partner's other companies already developed some of those technologies that can actually start writing. You don't know what article you're reading. I mean, they're
True.
contrived, right?
True, true. It's amazing. It's amazing. And for those just tuning in or watching from wherever you are, again, thank you and welcome. This is VCTV by LATOKEN. Now, if you're watching us in YouTube, again, the links are below. Click subscribe and like us there. And if you're on our main page itself, check out the schedules for all our next shows coming on as well. We have a few shows this week for, again, just go click look and bookmark whenever or whatever you want to watch. So again, Telly, I think just kind of moving the conversation again, now let's take a look at trends that are going on when we talk about facial recognition, when we talk about the ecosystem, AI and such. Have we seen them all, or what's being highlighted at the moment, Telly, at your end?
Okay, let me start. Trends. Uh, let's look at facial recognition.
Mm,
Like Gary said, facial recognition can actually capture emotions, emotive features. So you find I've seen facial recognition being used in, say, the tourism industry, especially now as they're trying to get it back up and running. Um, it's used to facilitate and replace the front desk and checking in. So it's contactless. You can capture identity. Some of it also links with identity because I've seen a number of identity startups starting to use AI, well, facial recognition and AI for just to double check that you are who you say you are. So if you upload your passport information or your driving license, um, companies like EOT and the rest would use we use that technology, facial recognition, to automatically double check that your image is the same likeness as the passport. So you get passport verification. Then on the other hand, when it comes to then using that same identity to then check in to your hotel, for instance, without the assistance of anyone. They're using these dashboards to once you have done your KYC and they've got your identity, you can simply go and they checks your facial recognition and then you check in because you're the same person. So that's being used not just in tourism, in banking, of course. This year, a lot of traditional banks had to now go remote. And remote onboarding has been very, very challenging for a lot of financial institutions. But those who now leverage, because as part of their regulatory mandate, they have to do identity for KYC purposes. Now, for those who are smart and were able to then apply KYC with then facial recognition. Then they're able to do remote onboarding. So it means that you don't necessarily have to travel. I have some clients who are like, they're because of the lockdown, they're unable to do banking. And, there's some things they still have to go manually into the bank for.
mm,
That doesn't need to happen anymore because you now can prove this person is who they say they are, and that facilitates a lot of cross-border transactions. be it banking, payments, you name it. Um, where we're seeing, we talked about the application for utilities, the energy, not necessarily facial recognition, but of course we spoke about AI and its predictive capabilities for the network, because utilities run networks, whether it's water networks or electricity networks. They depend heavily on data to kind of pinpoint where problems are. So for predictive maintenance, you're right. In the space of agriculture, it's useful. It's actually unique because out of agriculture, you can now have product development happening. So you have a segue between agriculture insurance, where in agro, you have many opportunities for collecting data points. One of the things years ago that I got interested in agriculture as a network, because people don't see it as such, as a network, is because it has significant opportunities for collection of data, be it climate data, soil variabilities, data on the production side, all sorts of data. So when you layer AI to this beautiful large set of data, you can now really predict exactly what's going to happen. So in the application of, say, insurance, and this is where we started to see an emergence of new types of insurance that were specific for agriculture, like crop insurance. This sector hardly had any opportunities for insurance, but now you can determine the weather. The technology is there to pinpoint and predict what's going to happen, what the damages are going to be. So using that data, you can actually create products. And so we're seeing an emergence of a lot of insurtech products. There's specifically, you have a model for index insurance, or what they call parametric insurance, where it is like a contract. It's agreed upon. I mean, we're talking about insurtech later on, but it's agreed upon, and it's based on a trigger. Now that AI would be able to predict what that trigger is and when that's going to happen. So
Right.
it's really easy to underwrite. Yeah, automotive. We could go on.
Yeah, yeah. Let's cover the companies in a bit because I think we kind of want to pivot towards looking at where the investments are going to as well. So, as you know, lots of startups and lots of aspiring entrepreneurs look and watch this show from where they are. They want to hear from you as well in terms of where the money has been going and where the money is going to go. Literally, just to sum it up that way. So, Gary, perhaps you can lead us on this one. Tell us a little bit about some of the investments that you, your company, or your peers made within the whole realm of AI and facial recognition and identity management. Perhaps you can talk us through that and what you were looking for and why you made that investment.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is so, as I said, where are we? I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania, Terrence. I grew up on the side of a mountain, a little village, 500 people actually, and less than 500 people. So I'm a country boy. I say, keep it simple, stupid, the KISS principle. So for me, I mean, as I said, there's massive amounts of data out there. What's really interesting? So facial recognition has had some challenges recently because of some of the political circumstances, social circumstances. But on the other side, one of my companies called IREX has had a lot of success. The why? Because guess what? There's a lot of missing and exploited children. So
Mm.
imagine being able to be tied up to agnostically to cameras to be able to find kids, right? Recently, there was a group in Ohio, I believe it was called Autumn Hope, and they found 45 kids that were either sex trafficked or exploited. Another 25 recently in the Carolinas. So there's a huge problem. There's like 400 and some thousand kids, 460, I believe, in the US alone where that have been identified in that kind of circumstance. So what I'm saying is let's use it for the good, right? So what we have is actually one of my companies is the number one NIST rating in the United States today. which is the best AI for that particular facial recognition environment. So it's called IREX. And what kind of things are happening? Well, think about your lives today. How many times now, do you go in retail stores? How many times you're walking around the city? Depending on the city you're on, there are cameras everywhere, right? There are cameras. Now, the funny part is, we don't really use those in the right way. I would love it if there's a situation where I fell down and hurt myself or had an accident, that I could be instantly have, the police or some type of assistant come over and offer
Mm,
assistance, right? I think
mm,
we've got to look at where it's going to happen. Just so you know, I mean, think about it. We're all we're all using the cameras on our phone taking selfies. Do you think that stuff doesn't get recorded somewhere?
I'm
Really?
sure it does.
Everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know where you
Yeah.
are, when you are. They got the latitude and longitude. They know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So we need to use it in the right kind of way. And we need to be able to, with my system today with IREX, you can actually go down through, and the reason I'm saying it because it's so sophisticated. It's an encrypted, so it's got encrypted messaging. You pick
Mm,
up somebody falls in a subway system, it alerts the police right away that somebody's fallen and needs assistance instantly. It does it on its own, no human intervention. If somebody's in a metro system and a subway system and they're not supposed to be there, maybe they're a convicted felon, it alerts
mm,
the police to check it out. Not saying they're 100%, but it's like 99% right. So those kind of technologies are going to happen in terms of, buildings. We have facial recognition in one of my offices for R&D. So you come in, it knows who you are, right? There's just no question, about the key. It knows who you are and where you're supposed to be. So it knows what floor you're supposed to be on, et cetera. Those
mm,
kind of technologies are interesting. The thing that we've got to be sure is that, we're not doing racial profiling and all that with these technologies, right? Toggle that on and off. And what we're looking at is, you can also not only tell the face, but you can tell person's body movement is
mm,
also, it's like fingerprints, the kind of things that people do. So this is really a dawn of the new age. Our lives are going to so radically shift over the next 25 years. I mean, think about it. You're not even going to be in a car. You get in your car, it looks at your face. Oh, hi, how you doing, Terrence? Sit down. You're not going to drive anymore. You're going to be sitting
right.
in the passenger seat. It's going to, I know where you want to go. It's time to go to the office. Oh, by the way, you're going to Starbucks. I know you go at 11:35. I'll be over there to pick you up. And then your Apple Watch will say, he's running a little bit late. Give him another 5 minutes. It's seriously. I mean, I've seen those cars. Magna, which is one of the largest contract manufacturers in the world, took me to their place where they had their self-configuring car, the
Right.
future. It actually comes over. It drops you off at the airport. It says you need 4 people. It configures itself as a van. Next, it goes over to do deliveries for an Amazon. It reconfigures itself one more time, and I'm giving an example as Amazon, but it reconfigures itself at a cargo van, and then it comes back over. Oh, you got to pick the kids up from school. Now it's your van picking the kids up from school. You never touch the wheel. You just sit there and it drives you around. But
Right.
that's a preview of coming attractions and a
Got
not too
it.
distant future.
Got it. Is it just a good idea, or when do you actually start looking and considering an investment in them?
Well, I mean, the situation when I look at is I look at the team as number one, and
Mm,
I look for the passion, Terrence. Many times, and I've started the top accelerator in Russia called Skolkovo Startup Academy and also GVA, which is a top private corporate accelerator. Thousands of people have come through. So let me tell you, team is number one. Also, the will of the team members. Do they really want to do it or not? Because
mm,
something, this is not easy. Telly will say the same thing. It's not easy when you're doing a startup. Seriously, there's ups and downs and ins and out. And if you're weak, you die. If you don't physically die, but you're just not going to make it. There's a
right.
reason 90% of the startups fail. So here's what I say. Number one is you go through acceleration. I call that startup 1.0. Two is you do regional dominance. You're in Singapore, you're in India, you're in Vietnam. You
Mm,
dominate your region to show that you've got the right stuff to be able to, as a team. Then third is to go on global. Now, again, keep it simple, stupid. What I do is I use Silicon Valley as a port to the rest of the world because half the money in the world's still located there. And
Mm.
if you're going to raise, if you want to get investment from Docomo from Japan, you deal with their office in Palo Alto. If you want to deal with Magna out of Austria, you deal with their office in Palo Alto. Walmart, there. So many, BMW, you deal with them. It's like, it's keep it simple. If you want to go fishing, you fish in a pond where there's fish, right? Yes, you can have an office in Singapore. Yes, you can have one in the UK, but you want to go where the money is and the valuations are high.
Right.
And
Makes
there's
sense.
talent. There's a lot of talent from all over the world aggregated in one place. So if you want to find the best AI people who are from Russia, from Israel, from China, a lot of them are there. And that's what we do, right? And it's, again, it's keep it simple, because you can say, well, I'm going to go to, I have an office in Moscow. I'm going to go to Moscow. But if you want to get the valuation right and the money, that's not the best place to go. If you want to raise a nice Series A or Series B, you want to go where those opportunities exist. When I took my company, so Eva, out to Silicon Valley, it was like within 5 months, well, 4 months, I raised $7 million. That was unheard of, to raise that much money from scratch and any other place in the world, but we did it. So, keep it simple. So team is number one, the passion of the company. Are they really want to succeed? And then is, what's their technology like, right? Is it
Right.
really like cutting edge? The other dilemma you have, Terrence, a lot of time with technical co-founders, what happens is they keep inventing this stuff and they run out of money because they're always trying to seek perfection. They never want to sell it. They're always like, well, I want to do this. I want to do that. They don't come up with an MVP. They just keep inventing it. I'm not saying it's bad to invent, but if you keep doing that, you're going to run out of business. Customers come first. Remember, Bob Dorff and Steve Blank in the lean startup model say directly, and Bob Dorff's a good friend of mine. I've been to Steve Blank's house a number of times. Go down and make sure people are willing to buy it and take it out of your hands and pay cash. If they're not willing to do it and you're a startup founder, there's something wrong. It's not, you can't believe your own BS. You can't say, oh, I've got the greatest thing in the world. Everybody's going to want it. You got to make sure people are willing to spend money for it. Because I had it happen to me with Eva before I pivoted 3 times. The first product I had is a Google-like search for your personal cloud. I was one of the ones, my company was the ones that invented some of that stuff, right? We just talked about. The problem is people aren't willing to pay for it because companies like Google give it for free. They love it. They have the pain. They smile. Oh, I have this problem every day. But the problem is, number one is they don't want to pay for it. And number two is, not only that, they forget their passwords. So you have those Yahoo and AOL accounts and you don't remember them. And you don't want to go down and do the work to figure it out. And it's like 99% of the people, they got the accounts, which by the way, are dangerous. As if you're like me, you got those accounts, I've secured mine, but most people don't have them secure. And that's where the hackers get in and steal your stuff, right? Because you got a lot of personal stuff, because 10 years ago, you weren't thinking about security. You were thinking about having a really, Terrence 1 password and, right?
I agree. I think I had one of that before.
Really? Seriously, right? Terrence
I've
1
changed.
password.
I've changed it. I've changed it now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the hackers are out there checking, but that's the kind of stuff. So, we've got to go down through. And if you're looking at a team, you got to make sure they have the spirit, because it's not easy. If you want to be, and I've created 2 unicorns. If you want to create a unicorn, it's not easy. You got to have the right stuff. The good news, people talk about it a lot, but very few people have ever done it. When you've gone down through and done it, it's like winning the Formula One. But the thing is, can you repeat it a second time and a third time and a fourth, right? And Elon Musk, people said Elon Musk wasn't going to succeed. Do you remember that? He came out of PayPal with a boatload of cash and they were laughing at him. He didn't actually start Tesla. He actually invested in Tesla, right? And so people were laughing at him. You're going to do space. You're going to do solar panels. You're going to do, Tesla. Come on. Nobody's going to buy an electric car. Now, he's like a genius, but then they thought he was an idiot, right? And everybody's against them. As soon
Right.
as you turn the corner, people start coming around, and so you got to look at people who have that kind of passion. They aren't afraid, to go against the headwinds. But again, people are willing to pay for it. Remember, if people aren't willing to spend money and grab it out of your hands, don't do it, because you're going to have challenges. Make
Right.
sure it's not you saying it's the best in the world. Make sure that your customers are saying it's the best in the world.
Yep. Excellent advice there, Gary. Again, I think those are valid points. And for those watching, I hope you've been taking notes on some of the points that were highlighted here. And over to you, Telly.
Yeah.
Where is the investments going? And what do you see at the moment?
The big one I see is investments going to open architecture for AI. So there's one in particular I looked at, was just OpenAI. They're doing quite well. Even Microsoft Ventures is putting $1 billion in it. Why? Because
Mm,
it's infrastructure focused. It means you can just take the APIs and plug it in. But then where I see the market heading is, it's all great to target the tech people, because the first adopters for for AI has always been the tech people. But if you really want mass adoption, you need to get to the point of it has to be non-programmable code, right? It has to be drag and drop like a widget, so that people can plug and play and put it into their business models, incorporate it into their business models at that level. So that's where I see um, AI kind of heading into. Companies I've seen like applying it, for example, an early stage startup called Popcom. Popcom is using as incorporated AI into their business model, and they sell they have they sell pop shops. So it's like they're automating retail, and they have these automated pop shops. So they have hardware. They sell the hardware. You can put whatever in it. So they're selling it for shoes, or if you're selling CBD, or um, medical marijuana or whatever, and you need a controlled environment, that pop shop can be used. Now they're using AI, interestingly, to kind of capture high-level data in terms of metrics, in terms of interest. So they use the AI to see what the people are interested in, and they capture some high-level data points. They don't capture the personal data points, because this is where there could be a contention. But this way, they have trends, and they can say, okay, well, male, female, number of males, number of females, and what they like. So they actually are creating a trend pattern for them to then target better a demographic and provide insights for people who are using, or clients who are using that. So I find that an interesting application of AI. For pure AI startups, there's is it Emotiant? They kind of use facial recognition to detect customers' reactions to ads. So, ads are really, right now, we talk about infobesity when it comes to ads. We have adbesity. We're kind of adverse to ads. So you want to know exactly what's working or not working. So they in the B2B space, they're doing really well. Vocal IQ is also an interesting one, because guess what? My voice has a pattern. It's scary too. Um, but they're creating voice interfaces that you can highlight. So those are
mm,
some of the top ones other people are invested in. I just want to touch base on something Gary said from the perspective of startups and what it takes to be a startup. So about maybe 3, 4 years ago, I'd launched this new accelerator program in the Caribbean, a tech accelerator, and the in that cohort, I'll say my winner, my competition within one of the companies in that cohort actually developed an AI from scratch, And he was far ahead of his time because in this ecosystem, they only just started learning about AI. So I remember taking him to Jamaica for a big pitch competition. And he pitched his AI. He had a business model all around. It was B2B, and he wanted it to be different from the other AIs. He had programmed it from scratch. And do you know, because it was so novel and new, the judges, that's why I don't like pitch competitions, the judges thought it was a recording. They,
Right.
they thought it was a recording, but it was AI. He had actually programmed it, and she had a personality, and she was quite interactive, but they thought it was a recording. It wasn't until after the fact. If you wanted to look at what was the most innovative startup, that would have been. Unfortunately, yeah. On the one hand, he his team wasn't strong enough. That experience frightened him, and and then, oh no, then something else happened too. So really early, and this has to do with intellectual property, where while he had launched that technology, he hadn't really had the time to secure the IP. And in the Caribbean, when it comes to IP protection, it's there, but in terms of um, more startups understanding how that works, and even having the money to register it, we don't have a simplified process like the US where you can do a provisional patent, right? So unfortunately, what had happened after it pitched, somebody else got got a hold of all his data and tried to, create a similar AI. They managed to pick it up early. I think he had a court case, but that made him so shy, he stopped his AI project. So that's to say, yeah, it really is, you really have to have the grit, you have to
Mm.
have the passion and the drive. It's not an easy journey. We can just talk about it. Being a serial entrepreneur myself, it's hard. And I'm sorry, Gary, not everyone is going to be going to Silicon Valley for investments. And I don't agree if you're in Russia, there are investors there. The only difference is that because you're dealing with innovations and things that are new, you have to sort of find those investors that kind of are in that space, or you spend time educating them about the space. So
Well, I mean,
investor education is key.
Kelly, I ran the number one venture academy in Russia. I lived there 14 years. I went to university in Russia too for 5 years. So, I mean, I know a little bit about it, a lot about that ecosystem. And my partner is a number one tech guy in Russia, the billionaire partner of mine. So
All
I'm telling
right.
you, I deal with Russian investors every single day. And I've been there since 1992, going back and forth, and just recently came back. So when we say about it, I'm just telling you what they say too. And I
Mm-hmm,
trained a lot of them myself in my venture academy. So
mm-hmm.
the situation is they're actually saying, why is it though? It's really important, Telly. The reason is because of rule of law. Because Delaware has a very robust uh, corporate law, and creating the office in Silicon Valley to have access to the VCs. The rule of the VCs generally is they go a half an hour to 40 minutes from their office, and that's it for a startup. So it's like keep it simple. I've had thousands of companies through, and Russian companies. Russian today, I have German companies, I got Indonesian companies, I've got Indian companies, but the thing is, the valley, it's just you can go different places, but if you're gonna go, it's like I say, fishing. You want to find a pond where there's a lot of fish,
Correct.
and so it's a great pond. And because with Russian, and I have Belarusian companies today, Russian companies, but and German companies and companies from Stanford. But the situation is, it just offers a great opportunity to get the funding. I'm not saying it's the only place, but if you look at
Okay.
where the values are the highest and
Yeah.
where there are people from all over the world congregated together, whether they're from St. Kitts or they're from Russia or they're from Vietnam, they're just a lot of them aggregated in one place. It's
Right.
just and they know me. I've been going there, doing companies for 35 years. So can imagine, in the morning on Saturdays, if I go to Starbucks in El Camino, I see Tim Cook. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
So
generally.
networking is key. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Networking.
yes, they know who we are, right? They're like, I've Click Software was a company from Haifa, was nothing. It was sold for 1.3 billion. And
Mhm.
so you get some recognition. I've written papers. Anyhow, that's just what we do. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but dealing with these companies from everywhere, it just is one place that works. If they know you, remember, we're in the
It's if
pandemic.
they know you. Yep.
If they
You're
know
right.
you, right?
If
Like
they know
you and,
you.
St. Kitts in the Caribbean, they know you. The challenge is today, we got another level of challenges. The challenges this pandemic's getting are really bad, right?
Mhm.
And so it's harder than heck to travel. So
Yeah.
having people that are recognized that can be your proxy to go in and talk about your company or part of your team is a whole other level. And this, we're probably going to be in this situation for another year and a half, 2 years,
Yeah.
right? And in order to survive, just like VCTV is doing a great job of
They
every
are.
day of getting the message out, it's
Yeah.
really critical to have these kind of venues because this is a way the startups can continue to go forward. If not, they're dead because they don't have the contacts for the most part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I think both of you have kind of valid points in terms of where the money is and sort of a ranking of the whole ecosystem itself. But again, I think the important part to sum it up is platforms like such, where we bring investors from all across the globe into one platform for your entertainment and for your viewing as well. So the advice you can get, the investment you can get, and we are that bridge. So again, it's something that all of you are tuning in as well. Do take this as an opportunity to learn from your investors. Get in touch with them, get in touch with us. We can be that bridge and we can get something running as well. Now, to the both and to the panel as well, we have a few more minutes left. Let's sum it up. Final words for investors, entrepreneurs, startups. They're looking at you for advice. What are you going to tell them with regards to the topic that we're talking today? What are and what should they look out for in the next few months? Gary, we can start with you.
I mean, I named my company Get Shit Done for a reason. So, I mean, there's a lot of talk, but then you need to have action. It's get shit done. So if you got a
Right.
dream, go out and test your model, use customer development, make sure it's valid, make sure people want to buy it. And there's a book called The Owner Startup Manual by Bob Dorff and Steve Blank. Read it. They're
Mm.
great guys. It'll give you some insights. Don't be, this is a challenging time, but I can tell you directly, it's never been easy. I've never failed with a startup, but I've gotten some that have been brutally hard. And I mean brutally hard. It's like falling off your bike as a kid where you skin your back kind of hard and it hurts. But the thing is, you got to dust yourself off, get up and move forward. The thing is, most people don't. Once they fall down, they never want to get back up and they're afraid. Get back up and do it. This is a great time if you use the mediums like LATOKEN and you use these kind of venues to be able to get in, meet investors, get your word out, present. This is a great opportunity. It's the best opportunity I've ever seen because guess what? People from all over the world have to use the same kind of venues because there's no other way today. You can't fly, right? For the most
Right.
part.
Right. Excellent.
Use the technology for your benefit.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Gary. And I think that's a valid point to those viewing in as well. Telly, final words from yourself.
Well, you need to look at what the trends are, what's going on now, and spot some trends and try and get ahead of those trends. Um, from a practical standpoint, just like what Gary said, customer development is really important. You really need to focus on creating an MVP. Don't overbuild. I mean, I could say that, but like Gary, you've experienced it where you start and you're like, no, we want more, we want more. Don't overbuild. Test as you go along because then it saves yourself a lot of time. You could overbuild, and the next thing you can't monetize it because your assumptions weren't tested. Or probably it was just too early, or the target market is just not the right one. So know when to pivot. You also need to kind of try and focus as well. So from my perspective, because we're ecosystem builders, we tend to kind of work on maybe 4 or 5 problems, 6 problems at the same time. That's fine if you're really great at project management, but if you can, then if you're doing that, try and focus on 2 or 3,
Mm.
and be focused and regimented. That's basically it.
Right.
Business model innovation,
Hmm.
really key. It's not just about the technology, it's really about the business model. And when you're looking at the business model, you're looking at the customer. Understand that customer holistically. Who are you targeting? What are their needs? Get to their emotive level. If you are in AI, you would have to get into the emotive level to understand what their motivations are and so on. And
Right.
once you can segment your clients and your target, don't overdo, do 2 or 3 and focus on that. Then you be and focus on solving their pains. And I mean not a mosquito bite, but shark bites. What
Yeah.
really hurts them that they can't live without? Once you're solving their pains at that level, then you would be on the right track to success.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Tally. And again, for all you startups and entrepreneurs out there, it's a hard, hard life. But when you fall, get up, and our investors are ready to listen to you. So, again, thank you for your insights, Gary. Tally, thank you for making time and getting on the LATOKEN platform. Again, have a good day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.